What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hearts, and today I'll be breaking down this 13-game NBA slate here for DraftKings for Tuesday night. Obviously, we have the day off tonight. I'm recording this at halftime of the college national championship game, so there'll be a lot more updated news coming out tomorrow morning, obviously in the afternoon as well before these games start. So make sure to check out my Patreon link down below, where I'll be going way more in depth on this slate, going over my core plays, building blocks. As you guys can see here, here's a sneak peek kind of just of how it's set up. I'll have all the injury news, the projected starting lineups, game totals, all of that stuff, game by game breakdowns, core plays, all that stuff will be in here. Just started it for tomorrow's slate, so that'll be up tomorrow morning. So make sure to check out my Patreon link down below. I'll also have PrizePicks content on there as well, all for great value. So make sure to check that out. Hit that like button. Follow me on Twitter at HeartDFS. And now let's get into this breakdown. So, as I mentioned, there is still a lot of news that we do have to kind of wait for that will be coming out all throughout the day tomorrow. Another crazy big slate, 13 games. After there being no games tonight, obviously because of the college national championship game, I'm recording this at halftime. So, a lot of this news might not be relevant by the time you guys watch this tomorrow. So, if you guys want updated news and just kind of my thoughts, all that good stuff that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's all on my Patreon link down below, so make sure to check that out as well. But yeah, heading on to this first game here, Toronto and Charlotte. This game is pretty much one of those games where it's a fantastic matchup for Toronto. It just will this game stay close? Now it did the first game, as we saw, Pascal and Van Fleet both went for 60 plus fancy points. Absolutely insane. But we know that's the matchup. Charlotte's playing their G League team. Toronto still has some games to play. To win. So I do like Toronto. It's just, will this game stay close? That's the biggest issue. It'll be interesting to see if people chase this game after the previous game there, where both Siakam and Van Fleet went off. Their prices really haven't moved. The only risk there is that blowout risk. But I really like both of them. Don't mind landing on Scotty. He's coming off. He had three really solid games. Two great games, solid game there, 35, and then obviously a little bit of a letdown there because Pascal and Van Fleet just went off. So I don't mind going to him if you want like a pivoting off of a Siakam Van Fleet who might have some ownership tomorrow. Don't mind that. Obviously, OG and Gary Trent are questionable. If they're both in, it kind of, you know, takes my interest out of a Scotty in that mid range, but he's still decent. I wouldn't get to like an OG, maybe a Gary Trent. If he comes off the bench, I'd take a shot on him. Podol, obviously a great matchup here, seeing about mid high 20s to about 30-ish minutes. Yeah, I have interest in this Toronto guys. It's just, will this game stay close? I don't know. It's kind of risky in a 13 game slate to just trust that, especially after last game. I think people will chase it, but fantastic matchup. Can't be too mad about that. So I do have some interest in the two main guys and Scotty Barnes as well. Moving on to Charlotte, as we know, most likely won't be Dennis Smith Jr. So they'll probably start Maladin, Mikhailuk. I think Mark Williams played their last game. Yeah, so they said they were doing a three-man rotation at center. Um, did Richard sit? Let's just see real fast. Sorry. Yeah, so Richard sat, and then Kai Jones, I know, played as well. So I think it's Mark Williams' turn to sit. So that probably means we'll get Nick Richards to start at center at 5-5. Kai Jones off the bench at 4,000. Both of them are firmly in play. I do really like Nick Richards there at 5-5. Kai Jones is playable. I mean, he's been playing solid minutes when he does play. 32 that last game. Obviously, it blew out, so he got some more minutes, but he's definitely playable at 4,000. But yeah, I really like the starting five for Charlotte. They're all going to be playing huge minutes, even if the game blows out. I mean, Maladon's seen basically 40 minutes a game right now. Luke's been very, very solid. Kind of scoring dependent, but he's been doing great at the peripheral stats recently. So yeah, I mean, I have a good amount of interest in these Charlotte guys. They all should be playing big minutes, even with a blowout. So I think the two that stand out to me are going to be Book Knight there as a value, 4,700. Minutes aren't the best, but definitely helps if the game blows out. Him and Maladon stand out the best to me. Luke, I don't mind him. I just think he's sometimes a little too score independent. I mean, obviously he's been doing great, but I just know if I play him, he'll go out there, go for 13, 3, and 3 and get me 21 fancy points, which is really going to hurt you at 6,200. So I'd rather get to, Maladon, who's going to be that starting point guard role. He has the usage, so he looks solid. And then get to, Richard, who has the double-double upside, even though he's pretty foul prone. And then Book Knight off the bench's value. Thor, McGowan's, Kai Jones are all playable. So good amount of interest in this first game here. Moving on to Cleveland and Orlando. For the Cleveland side, solid matchup. These guys are priced about right. So, everyone's kind of back, healthy. If I had to land on someone, it'd probably be Allen or Garland just for the price tags. But yeah, no real interest in Cleveland because they're all just kind of priced about right, even though it's a solid matchup. So if you guys want lower owned guys, you can definitely get a few pieces from that Cleveland side. On the Orlando side, kind of the same thing. Not the best matchup at all here. Orlando technically still can make the playoffs if they win. They will need, I think it's the Bulls to lose out the last few games as well. So, they still kind of have something to play for, but not the best price tags, not the best matchup. So, don't really have much interest in the Orlando side there. Moving on to Milwaukee, they still need to secure the first seed, the number one seed. So they probably will run Giannis out there. Middleton's already ruled out. Maybe they'll rule out Giannis and we'll get Drew Holiday leading the team. I'd really like him. Brook Lopez would look great. Same with Bobby. All three of them would look fantastic. But if it's Giannis, really just prefer Giannis at 11-4. Obviously, a fantastic matchup here. These other guys are, strong secondary pieces. I do like the price tag on Portis. He'd probably be playing a few more minutes without Middleton. They'll probably throw, I'd assume, Connaughton into the starting five. He'd be a decent value. Should see around 20-ish minutes, maybe a few more. He's decently productive. Ingles off the bench maybe sees a few more, probably 20-ish. He's a decent value as well. So we can definitely look to those guys. Allen is out as well. So they'll probably start Connaughton maybe and a Carter or a Connaughton and maybe a Wes Matthews. They could get weird, but yeah, there is some interest there from Milwaukee besides Giannis, depending on how the injury news goes. For the Washington side here, on Washington, we know all the main guys are out, so Denny's once again leading the team. He was very non-aggressive in that Knicks game. Not really sure why. As you can see, he had 8 turnovers. So I think when he's like the only playmaker, like with Porzingis out, I do think it definitely hurts his ceiling. I think he just becomes strictly like a ball handler, kind of getting everyone involved. So I think he still has great upside, 7,400. I think he's going to be pretty low owned. Obviously, not the best matchup here. Obviously, huge blowout risk, but if this game stays close, it's going to be most likely because of Denny. So you got to have your blinders on. Just forget about the past few games and definitely go to him because he'll be coming in and go low ownership if you think this game stays close, most likely because of Denny. So he looks solid if you want a piece from this game and a piece from this Washington side. For the other guys, I don't mind Kispert, Gafford, Wright, or even Davis. They all look decent. If I had to land on one, it'd probably be Davis just because I feel safe with the upside there because of the blowout risk. I mean, he's not the best. He had like 16 fancy points into that fourth quarter, and he got, like 10, 13 fancy points in the last few minutes. But yeah, I think I feel the best with him just because he is pretty cheap there. Should be playing decent minutes. And as I mentioned, you can land on the guards. Goodwin would probably be a solid play there. None even in a blowout at the end of the game. Only saw 13 minutes, so not a lot of interest in none. It'd really just be sticking with Davis, maybe Goodwin, and then taking a shot on like a guy like Denny. I don't mind Delon Wright. He's productive, has the upside there with the steals. It just comes down to you. Can he hit a shot? Sometimes he can't. But he has a decent floor there at 5,500. So, Washington's a team that has a lot of solid options. It's just, will this game stay close enough for them to play? If you don't think it does, Johnny Davis and Goodwin are probably your two main options that you want to target. Moving on to Miami and Detroit. Fantastic matchup here for Miami. I'd probably land on Tyler Hero and Bam, and that's really it. Bam should be good to go. Jimmy, I mean, it's a great matchup. We know the upside of the Jimmy. He's kind of been the leader the past month for them, but I just prefer Bam and Tyler. I think they just have a little bit better matchups that they could easily exploit. So I think those two look great. If you want a piece from this team, they should be both pretty low owned on this slate. And that's really it. If you want to land on some value, I don't mind landing on like Caleb Martin there. Victor Oladipo randomly saw a DMP, so I wouldn't trust him unless Kyler Lowry gets ruled out. On to Detroit. Decent price tags for these guys. Just, slow pace, not a great matchup. So Ivy, Hayes, Wiseman, Duran, they're all decent secondary options. I always think Duran's probably my favorite just because he's decently cheap, has strong upside, and that's really it. I mean, I wouldn't mind landing. Ivy is like a contrarian spend up, going to be playing the minutes, going to have the shot attempts. It's just, you just hope this game stays close. And you could definitely take a shot on Eugene. If the game blows out, he will see some more in the minutes. He could definitely pay off a price at 4,400. But yeah, not a lot of interest in that game. Moving on to Minnesota, Brooklyn. For the Minnesota side, it's pretty simple. Towns should be given a go. I think he's way too cheap here. In a close game, as you can see, he will see mid 30s minutes. So he's pretty much back to normal minutes. We know he has huge upside. He's still shaking off the rust there. He's a double double type guy, so I do really like him here at 7,800. He looks very very solid, even though it's a slightly tough matchup against Brooklyn. I think Towns looks great. Claxton's gonna have his hands full trying to guard Towns. Edwards looks really really solid too as well. Gonna be playing the minutes. It just comes down to can he hit a shot. If he does, him and Towns can both go for 40, 45 plus in this matchup. So really like both of them, and with both of them in, really no interest in the rest of his team here. Sure, you could take a shot, maybe on a guy like Noel, but it's really hard to trust anyone off the bench there. Everyone else is kind of priced up a little bit too much for me. Onto the Brooklyn side here. I mean, the starting five is going to play a ton of minutes. So Bridges, Dinwiddie both look great, even though at elevated price tags. Bridges has been playing fantastic recently, as you can see here, 45 plus in the past like 5, 6 games. So he's been great. Another great matchup against Minnesota. So I really like doing a game stack here. Wouldn't mind it. I've been kind of pretty expensive, but you could definitely fit in Towns, Bridges, and Dinwiddie and get away with it. So really like doing that as of right now. We'll have to wait and see if that holds up for tomorrow. But all, two of these guys look great. Claxton, Cam Johnson are fine. Royce O'Neal, DFS are decent options. But yeah, really just prefer the main three guys of Claxton, Dinwiddie, and Bridges. Moving on to Atlanta and Chicago. On the Atlanta side, big news here is Trae Young. If he's out, they'll probably start DeJounte Murray as the point guard. Bogdan will probably come off the bench, be the shooting guard. He'd look great at 5,200. DeJounte Murray would probably become a huge priority for me to get to. Collins, Bay, Griffin, Johnson, all will be in play. If I had to get to some of those wings, it'd probably be Griffin and Johnson as some like salary relief. Both of them should see at least 15 plus minutes. Maybe they start one of them. We'll have to wait and see. But I think they both be solid value. They're both pretty productive players when they're out there. So a lot to like here for Atlanta. If Trae Young's in, then it'd really just be Trae Young and DeJounte for me. Clint Capella would be fine. Don't mind him. Okongwu's been solid off the bench. It's just can he stay out of foul trouble to see more minutes? And then you could definitely take a shot on Bogdan or Collins. They're kind of like solid GPP plays. For the Chicago side here on Chicago, it's really just the main three guys. DeRozan, Zach, Vooch. If I had to land on one, it'd probably be Zach. I mean, Vooch they all have huge upside. It's just really who's going to have the biggest game. It's kind of hard to decide, but really like the price tags for all three of these guys. Great matchup here against Atlanta, but I think, Zach and Vooch. Kobe White, I will mention, seen big minutes. He's been very, very productive recently. I think I don't know. It's hard to trust. He's been doing it consistently for the past like 2.5 weeks. But once again, it's kind of hard to trust. It's Kobe White. He could definitely go out there, really screw you. But I will mention him as an honorable mention as like a play on this team. If Cruz was back, maybe we can land on Caruso as some value. But I'd really just stick with the main three guys. On to the second half of these games here. The first game here, Portland and Memphis. With Portland, everyone's out. Even more people might be out with Watford and Knox and Thibault and Reddish. So we'll have to wait and see. But there's a lot to like here for Portland, even though it's going to be a blowout. Sharp's been playing huge minutes, even in blowout. So he looks as a solid spin up there at 8,000. Watford, if he plays, not a lot of interest. He's been pretty limited in his minutes out there. They've been giving it to the younger guys. So no interest in him. If you think the game stays close, he looks pretty solid there at his price tag. If it's going to blow out, he will lose minutes. Knox, would be a solid play there. He's been shooting the ball a ton. It's just, is he going to be playing? We don't know yet, but I think he should be giving it a go. He should be fine. Mays has been really, really productive when he's been out there the past 2 games. So I really like him. 30 minutes both games. He's been getting 28, 29. Maybe it's a little hard to trust because, it's like his first 2 games in the NBA, but he's been super productive. If the game blows out, he should be playing more. So I do really like him there at 5,100. And a potential huge blowout here. And that's about it. You can land on like a Jabari Walker. We'll kind of have to wait and see how the injury news goes down here, but we could definitely dip down into these other guys like Jonathan Williams, Shaq Harrison, maybe even Jabari Walker, depending on if these guys are in or out. So thankfully, it's one of the earlier games, so we'll get that news relatively quick before the rest of the games. But yeah, on the Memphis side, not a lot of interest for me just because of the huge blowout. So if you think the game stays close, it'll be most likely because of Ja and maybe Triple J. You could definitely land on them, but otherwise, no interest in Memphis. Moving on to Sacramento. Decent matchup here against the Pelicans. Finally, they have a game where we're able to target them and there's not huge bullet risk like they had the past 3 games. So I love Sabonis at 10-1. I love Fox. His price tag at 7-7. It's really dropped down. He's super all over the place, but he's a great GPP play because, he can definitely go out there and get you 24 fantasy points, or he can go out there and get you 57. That's kind of what you want in the GPP play. So I do really like him right now at his price tag. In terms of the rest of the team here, Monk's questionable. If he's out, just solidifies some more minutes for the wings like a Herter, Barnes, Murray. We'll maybe get some Mitchell off the bench. Maybe we'll get some Terrence Davis off the bench. You could take a shot on Terrence Davis if you want. Don't feel great about it. Lyles is there as well. Two guys you could definitely take shots on, but it's really just the main two guys for me. Pelican side, it's really just the main three guys. Brandon Ingram has been playing fantastic. He's facilitating. He's getting rebounds. He looks like a great spend up with what he's been doing recently. CJ is more of a contrarian option there in mid range, not doing a lot of facilitating and rebounding. It's pretty much been Brandon Ingram's team. And then J Val looks really, really solid here. They should need him against Sabonis. So I think he's in line for, it looks like 25 plus minutes, and he's been super productive. So really like him and BI, CJ more of the contrarian option. And really, if you want to land on one of the wings, I'd say Trey Murphy or maybe take a shot on Larry Nance and hope J Val doesn't do well. That's really it. Moving on to Denver and Houston. Obviously, fantastic matchup here for Denver. It's just will Jokic play? If he's in, I love the Jokic. You can also get to Jamal Murray. Rest of the team out of play for me. Now, if Jokic is out once again, Jamal Murray look great. Aaron Gordon will look great. Bruce Brown would look decent. He's kind of priced up. And then Michael Porter Jr. would look great as well. And then we could definitely take a shot on a guy like, where is he? Peyton Watson's been getting solid minutes the past 2 games. He's been super productive. Maybe that's hard to trust, especially with 2 blocks and 3 blocks, but I will mention him. On the Houston side, they've been playing their starters big minutes. Sengun's minutes have been up and down. That's not, the 47 right there is not real. I think it was more like 32. But yeah, if he gets the minutes, he's super, super productive. Obviously, it won't be a great matchup if Jokic plays, but I do like these Houston guys as like mid-range contrarian options that all have really solid upside. If I had to land on one, it'd probably be KPJ. He's been the most consistent, but we see the upside of Sengun. We know Jalen Greens can go for like 40 real life points. Jabari Smith, Eason, and Martin have all been solid. So decent amount of interest in Houston. They're kind of like a lesser version of the Nets. On to Boston. It's really just dependent on Jalen Brown. If he's out, love Tatum and love getting into one of these guards like a Brogdon, Smart, or White. If he's in, I think Tatum's a great spin up still. You can still get to Brown. He's a solid spin up as well. Robert Williams is out, so we'll probably see some more minutes for a guy like Grant Williams off the bench. He looks like a decent value. They'll need him in this game. Al Horford should see, I'd say, probably 30 plus minutes here. So I do really like him at his price tag. They're going to need him against Embiid, and they might even throw like a Blake Griffin or a Cornette out there for a little bit. But yeah, right now, really liking Horford and Williams until we get that Brown news. Philadelphia side, really just the main two guys for me. Love them a lot. Harden has been quiet of late. Same thing with Embiid, so they both look great. Moving on to the Lakers here. AD looks fantastic at 10-9. He's been a monster the past 3 games. Bron, he's cheap enough where you can take a shot on him. The minutes haven't been great. They've been limiting him a little bit, but he can still go off, as you can see, 3 straight games of 43 or more fantasy points. So we know he's a triple-double upside. Maybe he gets a few more in minutes. Maybe he's scoring the ball really well. Yeah. If Russell's out, you could take a shot on Schroeder at 5,400. He will fill in and be that point guard for them. On to Utah. Big news. There is Laurie and Sexton who might be back. If they're both back, if Sexton's not on a minutes limit, I really like him. If he is, no interest in him or any of the guards. If Laurie's back, I really like him as a contrarian spend up. If he's out, then Horton Tucker, Olenek will lead the team. I'd like Olenek a lot. There is no Kessler, so maybe we'll get Lucas Manich starting, or maybe we'll get Azubuike, maybe even Damian Jones. So there's some interest in Utah, depending on who they throw in to guard Anthony Davis and to fill in for Kessler. So we'll have to wait and see for that. Moving on to OKC, it's really just going to be one of the main 3 guys here. Jalen Williams, Giddey, Alexander. I feel the best with SGA, but we know the upside there with Giddey and Jalen Williams. Golden State, really going to be Steph for me. Don't mind the price tags on Green, Poole, or Thompson. They're strong secondary options. And then whoever starts, whether it's Looney or Kuminga, it's solid value. And then DiVincenzo coming off a huge game. I guess he's there. It really just depends on if he's going to be involved or not. And then moving on to the last game here, we have the Spurs versus Phoenix. Spurs side, Collins is questionable. Keldon Johnson's questionable. Sohan's already ruled out. It's looking like, I think Keldon's doubtful. Yeah, so he's doubtful. Collins is questionable. I know Vass already got ruled out. They're not even showing him. Or no, sorry, he's right there. Yeah, I mean, if Collins plays, he's be more of a contrarian option. Just don't love the price tags of any of these guys. If you think the game stays close, Trey Jones could be that guy. I mean, he did get a triple double. I don't trust that. So really not a lot to like here for the Spurs side. I mean, they're all kind of priced about right. Yeah. And then moving on to Phoenix, I love the price tag for Durant. I mean, we know he's huge upside. It seems like he's getting close minutes. It's just will this game stay close? I'm not sure. If you think it does, I think Durant looks way, 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 way too cheap there at 8,900. And I wouldn't mind taking a shot on Aiton, 6,200. Got a little bit more involved that last game. Has decent upside. He could have a random game where he goes off. You never know. But yeah, it'd really just be KD, and that's it for me. And yeah, that's going to do it for the slate breakdown. As I said, if you guys want a more in-depth breakdown with once we get more news, core plays, all that stuff, make sure to check out my Patreon tomorrow. I have a PrizePicks video up after this as well. So make sure to check that out tomorrow. Hit that like button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.